Hello and welcome to Jazz Tonight. I'm Michael Jacobi, executive producer of Jazz on the Plazz and host of Raising the Standards on KSCO Radio Santa Cruz. As we continue, we're just about to the end of our summer homage to the great Lady Day. This week, number 9, and although my number 1 choice for the year, a new friend, Tiffany Austin. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm delighted to see you. I have been a fan from afar because we'd never met and I'd never seen you in person, but I love your catalog of music, and it's wonderful work.
I really appreciate that.
Well,
Thank you.
Let's talk. We were talking to our producer Melissa about a great idea for a screenplay. A young woman born in Watts ends up going to law school at Cal and becomes an international jazz singer.
Yeah.
Wow. How does that come about?
Well,
Other than the obvious choices you make.
well, interestingly enough, I grew up in Watts, and my grandmother really raised me to be education focused, like that, good grades or you were in trouble. And so my mother and my father, my mother went to law school, my aunt went to law school, so everybody kind of steered me.
Was your dad an attorney?
My dad was a police officer.
Oh, okay.
So everybody
Wow.
was legal.
So you can arrest somebody and I have an idea who can help you.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but along the way I was, taking music classes, and I had always been really passionate about music, but never thought it could be a career. So, once I went to Japan, I actually went to Japan before law school, and I started singing kind of, as a hobby, and then it turned into kind of a full-time job. So by the time I started law school, I was heartbroken. I didn't know what was wrong because I couldn't eat and sleep, and that's the first year of law school anyway.
Yeah, you're not supposed to.
But, I had this heartbreak, and I realized it's because I wasn't doing music.
Yeah.
So when I graduated, I just ended up just saying, okay, I'm going to give myself a real chance to be a musician full time.
Now, did you pass the bar?
Didn't take the bar.
No, you didn't.
I was
Well,
tired.
in law school, you pass the bar, and in jazz, you never pass the bar under any circumstances.
Right.
All right, so your dad's a cop, your mom's an attorney, siblings?
I have a brother. I'm the youngest of, I have a lot of siblings,
yeah.
but 3 sisters, 1 brother, and I'm the youngest.
Okay.
And my brother's a rapper, and then I have my other sisters. They all do different things. One is in tech, another one is, homemaker.
And does your brother do well?
Yeah, actually, he was signed at 17, the age of 17, and so he's just continuing to put out work. Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Now, all right, so, obviously, growing up, he probably was exposed to the early signs of rap and hip hop.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But and you, on the other hand, and it must have been interesting if you were rooms next to each other, hearing the music cross paths.
Yeah.
You were Ella, and Billy, and Nina Simone.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, my brother was listening to that, and that's kind of what drew it into my sphere. My grandmother listened to a lot of classic jazz, and my brother. So I remember going into his room when he was out of the house, and I found this Ella Fitzgerald record. It was Night in Tunisia.
Okay.
And when I put that on and I heard her scat over that break, I lost my mind. I said, I want to do whatever that is. I didn't know it was scatting, but I just said, whatever that is, I want to do that.
So, do you play an instrument?
I practice instruments.
So, when you were a kid, did you?
No. It was primarily voice. They tried to push me towards flute, and I just didn't like it.
It's so hard to accompany one's voice.
Right.
So you didn't do piano or anything?
I've taken lessons, but really I've always been kind of a stubborn, person who just really wanted to do, my primary instrument. And only now, 1,000 years later, do I've realized why.
Playing the piano like learning a second language. Why didn't I do it when I was in a situation where I actually could learn a language?
Exactly.
Now it's no way in the world.
Yeah, but now I'm practicing bass, and that feels a little more intuitive to me.
That Esmeralda Spalding and my friend Kristen Korb, and I'll tell you a cute story, and I've told this at the park. You know, Katie Thoreau. Do you know Katie Thoreau?
Katie Thoreau.
She's a bass player, a young artist.
Katie.
And we had booked her for this year. And I've heard some of her stuff. She's really good, and I was excited to get her. And she calls me one day with this real sweet little voice and says, "Mr. Jacobi, I know we have a contract signed, but Quincy Jones has asked me to go to Dubai." And I said, "Now, Katie, let's think this out. Los Gatos with me, Dubai with Quincy. Go to Dubai. You'll be fine." I think I got some better career move for you. But there are a lot of
great.
women that are, no, I shouldn't say a lot, but that are doing vocals with a stand-up bass, which is totally cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering, which, was Esperanza kind of an inspiration for that,
I
or
would-
has it just come
'Cause
to our attention?
Before her, I don't really remember
Yeah,
anybody doing it.
yeah.
I don't remember a lot of men that played. There was Jay Lionheart, I think, was a bass player that sang and did some vocalese.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're 5, 6, 7 years old. You're singing around the house. You're listening to records.
Annoying people. Yeah.
Oh, I don't doubt that for a minute.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But were you into putting on shows and things like that?
I would make the family sit in the living
Were
room.
you and your sisters?
and
Would you
put
do
on a
performances
show.
and stuff?
My sister would sing. Yeah, she's yeah. She's not okay. I'm not gonna throw my
she's not
sister under the
watching
bus,
this, okay.
but yeah, my sister sang.
That's why
and
she's in tech,
a
right?
lot of lot of music in the house. Yeah, but I didn't start singing professionally until undergrad,
Okay.
and so
So you didn't sing in high school?
I sang I actually went to a performing arts high school,
Oh, okay.
LA County High School for the Arts.
Oh, okay.
And a performing arts elementary school too.
Really?
Forgot about that. Oh.
So that's like Fame Junior or something.
Yeah, baby fame.
Baby Fame. Did you do a high school rock and roll band?
No,
Really?
no.
You never did
I,
rock and roll?
No, I actually started an R&B group
Okay.
on my high school campus, but I never did that. Yeah. I like, I really like rock and roll, like aesthetically, like generally, but I've just been nerding out so long on jazz. Like I don't even know what is popular now. A lot of my friends will say, like, have you been hiding under a rock? How come you don't know this song?
If you're hiding under a rock, I'm buried under one. I have no idea. My
Yeah.
daughter's a punk rock singer, and boy, I'll tell you what, that's like God's way of getting even.
Oh.
Going to one of those concerts, I don't have a clue. I just hope if I can get one word, I'm really happy. I heard what she said. Well, let's talk about you discovering Ella, which needless to say is an inspiration. And and we've often talked about, and your friend Paula West, who was here a few weeks ago, we often talk with Paula about the great thing about the Great American Songbook is when the treasure trove that you run across is, even if you know the book, if you're Feinstein who knows everything, but you can run across a Gershwin you've never heard. And it's so exciting. And it must be such a thrill for what you went through when I was a kid discovering Sinatra and discovering Billie Holiday for the first time. It must be such a thrill to discover Ella and then move on and go, wow, Nina Simone.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is so interesting when you're digging through the catalog, and I think right now is a beautiful time to live in and be trying to discover new music, because you don't have to go down to the record store, pay a bunch of money. You can just Google things now, and I'm giving away my age, but I remember cassettes.
Oh sure, sure.
So yeah,
Do you remember the
yeah.
listening rooms at the stores?
I
That's
remember
giving away my age.
the headphones.
Yeah, the headphones. Did you go?
But it wasn't in an isolated room. It
No.
was just sitting. Yeah.
That was amazing. And well, that's
Yeah.
in the isolated room. You'd have a turntable.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I don't go. I don't go.
Now,
that
do you
far
listen
back.
to vinyl? Do you have a turntable at home?
I have to buy one. I just moved into a
Problem
bigger
isn't getting a
space, so-
turntable. The problem is finding a stylus.
Oh,
Nobody
they don't-
has it. It's tough to find. But I'll tell you what, it's so funny because we, of a certain age, we all went through the 8 tracks, the cassettes. But when we got to CDs, we said, wow, this is so much better than vinyl. When in fact it wasn't.
Yeah.
And vinyl, there's a warmth to vinyl, and and I think engineers in vinyl are so much more important than they are in CDs. but it's really extraordinary. And so much of that stuff is being re-released.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to high school. When you go to perform. Well, let's start with the performing arts elementary school. You auditioned for that.
I did. I did.
Oh
I don't
my
remember.
God! You could cut the stage mothers with a knife, and perhaps would like to. So I could just. How many good ship lollipops did you listen to? You're in.
I don't even remember what I sang for that. I just know, that I went there. It was South Shores Elementary School in Long Beach. And yeah, I just remember, it was really kind of fun to be thrown into all these musical situations and not have to force people to watch me like I had to do at home. So yeah, it really kind of inspired me and made me want to be a musician. And so by the time I got to high school, yeah, it's just kind of a little fire under me.
We're talking to Tiffany Austin, and we're going to leave her in third grade for the time being. And when we come back, we'll get her to high school. Take a moment to hear from our sponsor, which we are truly blessed to have and thankful to be with. Good folks at O'Connor Hospital, part of the Verity Health Group, and we thank them. We'll tell you a little bit about it now and be back to Jazz Tonight in just a moment.
At O'Connor Hospital, we're restoring health together. Step by step, together. Because care is better together. O'Connor, together in health. At O'Connor Hospital, we're shortening your wait time. Because in an emergency, every minute counts. This is our commitment to you. O'Connor Hospital, together in health.
Welcome back to Jazz Tonight. Michael Jacobi with you as we continue our conversation with Tiffany Austin. And if you watch this show, thank you, but you hear this every week from me. By the time you see this show, she's long gone. So I hope you saw it and are saying to yourself, wow, was that great? Or you're going, oh, sorry, I missed that. But delighted to have you with us, and we thank you for that. All right, we're in third grade now.
We're in third grade.
And I could just see what that school is like. My God. Talk about a chorus of children yelling things.
Yes, and they had different arts, visual arts, and different departments. So you had a lot of different things
you don't
going
go in
on.
with a core group. I mean, you might do they teach a choreography and also, you do dance, theater, vocals,
Yeah,
the whole thing?
Yeah, they had all those, but I didn't even kind of delve into those worlds when I was that small.
So they had, okay.
But it was mostly classical training. So yeah, my training there was all maybe like show tunes and chorales and things like that.
Okay, and so, all right, and that's through sixth grade?
Yes.
All right, and then what? You apply, and then does the competition get a lot tougher? Moving on to the next?
For sure, yeah, definitely. When I was going to LA County High School, when I applied, it was an experimental program. And so, it was kind of.
So you started kindergarten there?
I'm sorry.
You started kindergarten at the first school, at the elementary?
No, actually, I went to a local school in Watts when I was in kindergarten.
Okay.
And then I got into some gifted program thing,
sure.
and then they said I could go to the performing arts school. But it was very competitive.
But the high schools, yeah.
At the high school level, yeah.
And tell me, the high school curriculum, all of a sudden, is it as though, okay, guys, you probably want to do this for a living, and so let's get serious, as opposed to exploring?
Yeah, and I think definitely for vocalists, you get a kind of a different training from an instrumentalist. This is a gripe that I've been having actually in general, is that it's kind of difficult to find.
You can let it out. That's what this show is all about.
Let me just talk about my personal experience. I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, it's been really difficult to find a vocal program that's going to be in the same track as an instrumentalist. Like, I've always wanted to be a horn player. I've always wanted to get into harmony, improvisation, tone, and all that, instead of just trying to sing pretty songs, right? So I think, in high school, my high school, definitely, they were getting there as they were developing their program. Now, it's a beautiful program, but I know for me, I've always just kind of been someone who's wanted more rigor. So,
So when you graduate from there, obviously, is there a placement kind of thing? Or, I mean, it's obviously a great resume.
no, there's not really a placement. Actually, let me not lie.
Okay.
I was,
It's about time you came
I
back.
didn't think I had the best grades.
Yeah.
And at the time, I just thought, okay, maybe I'll just go and work. Because all my other friends were going to Berklee College of Music and, doing beautiful
But
things.
you didn't want to do that.
I wanted to, but I didn't have a lot of confidence in my grades because like I told you,
So you decided to go to law school because you're worried about your grades?
No, a friend of mine said, look, there's a place, Cal State Northridge, that you can go to school. You don't have to have any SAT scores, nothing. So I just brought my transcripts and they let me in. And so I said, wow. It was, during a kind of a rough time for Northridge. And so they were had more flexible admissions at the time. So I flexed my way into Northridge. And there I just studied creative writing and took some music classes. But the bridge to law school was a little more circuitous because I graduated from undergrad and then I went to Japan.
So you get your AA or you go
I got a
Northridge
BA
all the
in
way.
creative writing.
Okay, creative writing. Okay, and all this time you're singing?
I'm singing, but it's like, sticking my toe in and not, not thinking that it could be a real career in life.
Do you know Natalie Douglas?
No, I don't.
Oh, she's wonderful. She was here earlier in the year, and she told a story that she would, when she started singing, it was like the grog and sirloin, and she would get beer and meat. She would I didn't even get paid. It was like Highway 6 in Paramus, beer and meat. But you got to pay your dues. But you went to now. What caused you to go to Japan?
So I went to Japan. I said, okay, I spent a year abroad in England while I was in school, and I said, well, now I want to.
Did you sing while you were in England?
I did sing when I was in England. I actually took classical voice.
Okay.
Most of my training has been classical. So when I came, Japan. Getting to Japan. Yeah. So after Japan, after undergrad,
But you just went
I just wanted to
Japan.
go somewhere.
It wasn't as though you weren't captured on a white slavery ship and they didn't take you there to sing for your supper. I mean, did you have gigs in Japan when you were going? Did you have it set up?
I didn't. I had nothing.
God,
I had no
you speak
job.
Japanese?
I speak some Japanese.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Just poquito. So you show up in Japan, speaking a little Japanese.
Speaking zero Japanese at the time.
Okay.
And saying, I'm only going to be here a few months. And then, I'm only going to be here
Just till
just
I
a year.
mastered the culture.
And then it turned
And
into
so
5.5.
you had no management?
No management. In Japan, it's very easy to get gigs. You just
walk in?
You just walk in and people just throw gigs
Is
in
that
your
true?
lap. And
So I mean, it's like open mic. That if you go into, could you go into a jazz club seriously and not have a booking and sing and then maybe get a job?
I think because there's a smaller population of people who are specializing in that, who are from the States, I think it's easier, for folks to get gigs. I'm like, of course, over exaggerating, but
Sure.
Yeah, but it's easier.
And great jazz fans.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Don't say the wrong date on stage; you will be corrected.
Yeah. And I can imagine an American audience listening to another language that they don't understand and enjoying it. But the Japanese, they get it and they get the whole thing. Some of them I'm sure don't, but they get the full Monty, if you will, from the jazz and the spontaneity and the whole thing, which is exciting.
Yeah. And I think also the people that patronize jazz, that people actually want to pay you a living wage and
How long were you in Japan?
5.5 years.
Oh, good, because you were going to just learn the language, just stay a couple of months.
Yeah,
I'll have just a little blowfish and then I'm out of here. Right. So you're there 5.5 years. Did you hook up with a label at that point?
I didn't. At the time, I wasn't even doing jazz.
What were you doing?
I was just singing pop music
Okay.
and really bad, like cheesy wedding
Yeah.
stuff, and just whatever paid.
Yeah.
I was mercenary at the
Yeah.
time. So there was a kind of a turning point in Japan, which I'm always
Something
embarrassed
about a lovely,
about.
diminutive young woman doesn't really fire a lot of threat from a mercenary standpoint with me. But you were taking no prisoners, apparently. Give me the check.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this story, even though it's a bad story. So I was in Japan and I got called for a jazz gig, and I said, okay, wow, this is my first jazz gig. I love jazz. I have a general vague idea about it. I'm just gonna learn, some jazz songs, and I'm gonna do this gig. Just the wrong decision. And so the woman she was a piano player, and she said, okay, now, do some scatting. And so I did the scatting. Crickets. It was just
Lord.
like, everybody else had gotten, and then mine was just dead silence. And so I walk off stage, and the drummer comes up, and he says, hey, would you like some improvisation lessons? And I said, absolutely. And it turned out to be Tommy Campbell,
Okay.
who's his uncle was Jimmy Smith.
Yeah.
And he used to, Tommy Campbell also used to teach at Berklee College of Music. So he gave me a very, very rigorous.
That's a little synchronicity.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was painful, but it was beautiful, to understand, to learn from him the depth, that is in this music.
That's the what's the old joke about the jazz musician, a magician that just knows two songs, "Happy Birthday" and "I Remember Clifford." So, when did you do your first recording? How many recordings have you got out?
So out right now,
Right.
one.
One,
and-
okay.
Yep, and I
Which
just recorded a second one.
Okay, and when will that be out?
Early next year. I'm still sculpting logistics.
And the first CD, because I'm getting a lot of, I play it a lot on the air, and I love it. It's marvelous. And you do interesting things, and I'll talk a little bit about tonight, which was last week to you folks. What's interesting about your catalog is that, 1 minute you're doing a ballad, and then the next minute you're swinging, and then you're doing Rodgers and Hart, and then you're doing Johnny Cash. I mean, you do a killer version of I Walk the Line,
Oh, thank you.
which is just insane. I mean, what made you say, A, how did you find out about the tune? And B, what made you think I'm going to do a jazz version of this?
Well, I found out about it from the movie.
Oh, of the same name.
Yeah, and so I had said, I used to say, I love every kind of music except for country.
Right.
And so when I discovered Johnny Cash, I said, wow, that's a lot of soul.
Oh, Lord.
That's a lot of grit.
Yeah.
And so that's when I became a fan. And I knew that at some point I wanted to do something with that song. I just didn't know what. Yeah. And then when I was putting together the album, my first album, I wanted to do a Hoagie Carmichael tribute, and I stumbled across the Hoagie version of Johnny Cash's I Walk the Line. And I said, this is a
Really?
great excuse to
How
do
interesting.
this. Yeah.
Well, it's a marvelous version. You talked about, we've only got a couple minutes left.
Okay.
You talked about your early influences. There's obviously, one's first thought is, oh, I want to sound just like that, but you don't.
Yeah.
But you want to sound like that, how it sounds, but not how you hear it, I guess, is the feeling of Ella, or the feeling of Nina Simone.
Yeah. I think the way that my craft has developed is it started at karaoke.
Yeah.
And then it morphed into imitation. And now I'm in a place where I really just, like you said, I want to get into the spirit of what is happening and the mechanics, like the really small granularities, rather than trying to whole cloth, borrow something.
Yeah.
So, like the effortlessness of Ella without trying to sound like Ella, the grit of, someone like Billie Holiday, and the way that she pours all that soul into the way that she sings without imitating, necessarily her tone. So it's a fun exploration, and it's kind of never ending at this point.
Well, I wish this summer would never end, and it just keeps getting better. And I'm so delighted that you're here. Folks want to find out more. Do you have a website?
Yes, it's www.tiffanyausten.com.
Tiffany Austin. And folks, can they order a CD, your CD
Yep.
through there?
Yep, it's
or
on
they
my.
get Spotify and stuff?
Yeah, it's on my
Or write
website.
Taylor Swift or something.
Yeah.
Sure, good to have you here.
Oh, it's a
And
pleasure.
you are a charming lady, and you know, and we've often said the great thing about jazz is the respect different generations have for all generations, and you have brought with you, and you're bringing it through the ghosts of the past, and you're also treating the future to a very fine introduction. We thank you for that.
Thank you.
Tiffany Austin. That's Jazz Tonight. I'm Michael Jacobi. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, as always, for keeping jazz alive. Until next time, good night.
In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.